He was once a billionaire who had everything. But in one single night at the airport, his life changed forever when he met a crying little girl holding a secret photo of a woman he had lost. What she said next, and the shocking truth hidden inside that letter, forced him to choose between saving his company or saving a stranger's mother's life. But the biggest shock was still waiting, because the woman he thought he had lost forever had been secretly protecting his future all along. What happened next will make you believe that true wealth is not money, it is love. I was a billionaire. Private jets, glass towers, a name that opened every door. Yet that night, in the cold echo of the airport terminal, I felt smaller than ever. My reflection stared at me from the marble floor. Tailored suit, empty eyes. Success had cost me everything. 5 years earlier, I had slept in a rented room that smelled of damp walls and regret. My own partner had betrayed me, stolen my idea, left me drowning in debt and humiliation. I remember the hunger, the silence of friends who stopped calling, the way failure burns hotter than fire. Only one person stayed, Aisha. She sold her jewelry to pay my legal fees. She worked double shifts while I rebuilt my dream from ashes. When I wanted revenge, she gave me wisdom. When I wanted to quit, she held my trembling hands and said, "Build with integrity. Let pain refine you, not define you." I built again, slowly, ruthlessly disciplined. Years later, I surpassed the man who betrayed me. I became everything he feared. But success without love is a silent prison. That night at the airport, Aisha was gone. Cancer had taken her gently, but it had torn me apart violently. I was flying to receive another global award, another applause, another hollow victory. Then I saw her, a little girl sitting alone near gate 12. Thin sweater, wide frightened eyes. She was crying quietly, as if afraid to disturb the world. Something in her loneliness mirrored mine. I sat beside her. She looked up and asked, "Sir, are you rich?" I almost smiled. "Yes." She nodded slowly. "My mama said rich people are not always happy." Her words struck deeper than any boardroom insult. She reached into her small backpack and handed me a folded photograph. When I opened it, my hands began to shake, because the woman in that picture was Aisha. My breath stopped. The airport noise faded into a distant hum. "How do you know her?" I asked. The little girl wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "She was my teacher," she said softly. "She used to visit the children's cancer ward every Sunday." My heart trembled. Aisha had never told me. While I was chasing investors, closing deals, counting profits, she was spending her fragile strength with sick children. "She told me," the girl continued, "that if anything ever happened to her, I should give this photo to a man who looks lonely but strong." Lonely but strong. That was me. The girl reached into her bag again and pulled out a small envelope. My name was written on it, in Aisha's handwriting. The sight of those familiar curves broke something inside my chest. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter. The paper carried her faint perfume, lavender and warmth. "If you are reading this," she had written, "then you have achieved everything the world measures. But I hope you remember what truly matters." Tears blurred the ink. "You once told me you wanted to build an empire," the letter continued. "So build one that heals." The little girl looked at me carefully. "She said you would know what to do." Around us, executives rushed past. Announcements echoed overhead. But in that moment, time felt suspended between my past and my future. I looked at the child. Fragile, brave. "What is your name?" I asked. "Zara," she whispered. She had no father. Her mother was still in the hospital. Bills were unpaid. Hope was fading. And suddenly I understood. Aisha had not left me empty. She had left me a mission. I stood up slowly, my decision forming like sunrise after a long night. I took Zara's small hand in mine. "Come with me," I said gently. Her eyes widened, because at that exact moment, the man who had once betrayed me walked into the same terminal and recognized me. He froze when he saw me. The same expensive arrogance, the same calculating eyes. But this time, I did not feel anger. I felt clarity. He walked toward me slowly. "So," he said, forcing a smile, "still chasing applause?" I looked at Zara. Her fingers tightened around mine. "No," I replied calmly. "I am finally chasing purpose." He laughed. "You built your empire because of me." He was right. His betrayal had been the fire, but Aisha had been the light. Without her, I would have become a colder version of him. Zara looked up at the man. "Did you hurt him?" she asked innocently. He shifted uncomfortably. In that moment, I saw what true wealth was. Not power, not dominance, integrity. I turned to him. "You took my first company," I said steadily, "but you gave me resilience." His jaw tightened. "I forgive you." The word surprised even me. Forgiveness tasted stronger than revenge. For the first time, he looked small. An announcement echoed through the terminal. Final boarding call. He walked away without another word, and I felt something release inside my chest. I knelt beside Zara. "Your mother will receive the best treatment," I promised. "Not as charity, as commitment." Her eyes filled with hope. Right there, beneath the bright airport lights, I made a decision that would change thousands of lives. Hospitals, scholarships, a foundation in Aisha's name, an empire that heals. But as my jet engines roared outside, my phone vibrated in my pocket. It was the hospital. The doctor's voice sounded urgent, and the next words made my heart stop. "Sir, you need to come immediately." The line went silent. The world tilted beneath my feet. I looked at Zara, hope still shining in her fragile eyes. I forced steadiness into my voice. "We are going to the hospital now." The drive felt endless. City lights blurred past the window like restless ghosts of my past. My heartbeat pounded louder than the engine. I had faced bankruptcies, courtrooms, public humiliation. But this fear was different. This was not about money. This was about life. When we arrived, the sterile scent of antiseptic filled my lungs. Cold white walls, whispers, footsteps rushing across polished floors. The doctor met me outside the intensive care unit. His expression carried both urgency and possibility. "She needs surgery tonight," he said. "It is risky. We were waiting for financial approval." I understood immediately. While I was signing billion-dollar contracts across oceans, a mother was waiting for permission to live. "Prepare the operating room," I said firmly. "Use every resource available." Zara clung to my coat. "Is Mama going to leave me?" she asked, trembling. I knelt before her. Her small hands were cold. "Your mother is strong," I told her. "And you are stronger." Inside, fear clawed at my confidence. Hours passed like years. The red light above the operating room door remained on. I sat in the waiting area, remembering Aisha's final smile. Build an empire that heals. This was the first test. Footsteps approached. The surgeon removed his mask slowly. His eyes searched mine. And in that heavy silence, he began to speak. "She survived the surgery," he said quietly. Relief flooded through me so suddenly that I had to grip the chair to remain standing. But, he continued, the next 48 hours are critical. Hope, fragile as glass, rested in his words. Zara searched my face. Is Mama safe? For now, I answered gently. She wrapped her arms around me. A child who had met me only hours ago was trusting me with her entire world, and I felt something shift inside my soul. Not ambition, not pride, responsibility. When they allowed us to see her, machines beeped softly beside the bed. Tubes, monitors, breathing assisted by quiet rhythm. Her mother looked pale, but alive. Zara whispered, I brought someone who will help us. The woman opened her eyes slowly. Confusion, then recognition. You are him, she murmured weakly. I nodded. Aisha spoke about you, she added. She said you had a strong heart, even when it was broken. My chest tightened. How did you know her? I asked. Tears gathered in her tired eyes. She paid for my first treatment anonymously, she said. She told me never to tell you. Even in her illness, Aisha had been building quietly. Not companies, not headlines, lives. I stepped back, overwhelmed by the depth of her hidden sacrifices. In that hospital room, surrounded by sterile air and fragile hope, I understood the true scale of wealth. It was not measured in billions. It was measured in impact. My phone buzzed again. A message from my board of directors. An emergency vote had been called. They had discovered my decision to redirect a large portion of company profits into a medical foundation. The final line of the message read, If you proceed, you may lose control of the company. I looked at Zara, at her mother, at the machines keeping rhythm with life itself, and I realized another battle was about to begin. I stepped into the hospital corridor and called an emergency board meeting. Their faces appeared on my screen. Sharp suits, sharper eyes. You are acting emotionally, one of them said. Our shareholders will revolt. I felt the old fire rise within me, the same hunger that once pushed me out of poverty. But this time, it was guided by something deeper. For years, I said steadily, we built products that made life easier. Now we will build something that makes life possible. Silence followed. Another director leaned forward. If you move those funds, you risk everything you created. Everything I created. I remember the damp, rented room, the betrayal, the nights Aisha worked while I studied market charts under a single dim bulb. I had risked everything before. I am not risking the company, I replied. I am defining it. They threatened votes, legal challenges, removal. The call ended without resolution. I returned to the waiting area. Zara had fallen asleep against my arm. Her small breaths were steady, trusting. In that quiet moment, I realized something powerful. If I lost the company, I would still have purpose. But if I lost this chance to honor Aisha's vision, I would lose myself. Morning light began to filter through the hospital windows. Soft, golden. A nurse approached quickly. Sir, her condition is changing. My heart tightened again, not from fear of loss, but from the weight of destiny pressing closer. Inside the room, monitors flickered differently. The doctor looked at me with urgency, and then he said something that would force me to choose between saving one life and transforming thousands. She needs a specialized procedure, the doctor said. It is experimental, very expensive, not covered by insurance. How much? I asked. He told me the number. It was large enough to fund the first hospital wing of the foundation. One life, or the beginning of thousands. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Zara stood quietly in the corner, watching my face as if my expression alone carried her future. I closed my eyes. I saw Aisha again, her fragile hands in mine, her voice calm even in pain. Build an empire that heals. What did healing mean? Was it statistics? Or sacrifice? If I chose the foundation first, many would benefit later. If I chose this mother now, one child would keep her world. My board would call it irrational. Investors would call it weakness. But Aisha had never calculated compassion. She gave, even when it cost her comfort. I opened my eyes. Prepare the procedure, I said firmly. Use my personal assets. The doctor hesitated. There is no guarantee, he warned. There never is, I replied quietly. Zara ran to me and held me tightly. In that embrace, I felt richer than any headline had ever made me. Hours later, as the operating room doors closed again, my phone vibrated once more. A message from the board chairman. The vote is complete. My thumb hovered over the screen. If they had removed me, the foundation plan could collapse. If I lost control, everything would change. I looked at the red surgical light glowing above the door. 2 battles. One for a company. One for a life. I opened the message, and what I read made my knees weaken. The board has voted, the message read. You are no longer Chief Executive Officer. For a moment, the corridor felt strangely quiet. No anger. No shock. Only a deep, steady stillness. I had prepared for this. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and looked at the glowing red surgical light. If leadership required abandoning compassion, then it was never leadership. Footsteps approached. It was the chairman himself. He must have taken the first flight. You built this company for nothing, he said. Do not destroy for emotion. I met his gaze. I am not destroying it, I replied calmly. I am proving what it stands for. He shook his head. Investors will withdraw. Our stock will crash by morning. Behind us, Zara sat on the cold hospital bench, her hands folded in prayer. That image answered everything. I once lost everything, I told him. I survived. The company will too. Before he could respond, the red light above the operating room turned off. The door opened slowly. The surgeon stepped out, his gloves stained, his face unreadable. My heart pounded harder than any market crash. He removed his mask. And then, for the first time since this battle began, I saw a faint smile form on his lips. But before he could speak, my phone began ringing again. This time, it was not the board. It was every major news outlet in the country. I ignored the ringing phone. The surgeon's smile gave me hope. Your investment saved her life, he said. The procedure was successful. My legs almost gave way. Zara ran toward me, crying and laughing at the same time. Is Mama alive? She asked. Yes, I said softly. Your mother is coming back to you. She hugged me tightly, as if I had become her new safe place. Inside my chest, something healed quietly. The surgeon continued. But recovery will take months. She will need constant care. I will be there, I said without hesitation. Not as a billionaire, not as a CEO, but as a human being keeping a promise. Outside, reporters gathered like restless birds. Flashlights glowed through the hospital windows. The chairman spoke quietly beside me. You will be attacked for this decision. I know, I replied, but I will also be remembered for it. That night, I made my announcement. I spoke directly to the world. I have lost my position as CEO, I said on live broadcast, but I have gained something far more valuable. I paused. Success without compassion is failure in disguise. I am creating a global foundation in memory of Aisha, my late partner. My goal is simple. No child should lose a parent because they cannot afford treatment. Social media exploded. Some called me foolish. Others called me a hero. But the next morning, something unexpected happened. Major investors began donating to the foundation. Competitors joined. Even my former rivals sent a private message of respect. The company's stock, which had fallen, slowly began stabilizing. Because people trusted purpose more than profit. I visited Zara's mother again. She was awake, weak but smiling. "You kept your promise," she said softly. "No," I replied. "We kept Aisha's promise." Outside the window, sunrise painted the sky with warm gold light. Zara held my hand. "Will you stay with us?" she asked quietly. I did not answer immediately, because I knew life was about to give me another challenge. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered, and the voice on the other side made my heart stop in shock. The voice on the phone was soft, familiar. "Congratulations," Aisha's old business lawyer said. I froze. "You are surprised?" he continued. "She planned this long before she became sick." My chest tightened. He explained slowly. Aisha had secretly diversified my company's shares into ethical investments. She had secured Zara's future education fund. She had also ensured the foundation would be financially stable even if I lost everything. "She knew you would choose compassion over profit," he said. "That was her real love for you." Tears blurred my vision. Aisha had never tried to make me rich. She had tried to make me wise. I walked outside the hospital. The city was waking up. Children were walking to school. Workers were rushing to jobs. Life was continuing, patient and relentless. Zara stood beside me. "Are you still lonely?" she asked. I knelt down. "No," I said softly. "Not anymore." Because loneliness disappears when purpose enters the heart. Months later, Zara's mother fully recovered. The foundation grew beyond anything I had imagined. Hospitals were built. Children were saved. And I stopped wearing expensive suits except on rare occasions. Instead, I spent most of my time visiting people who were still struggling to survive. Success, I learned, is not about being above others. It is about lifting others until they can stand beside you. On the anniversary of Aisha's death, I visited her grave. The wind was gentle that day, like her voice. "I am still building," I whispered, "just like you taught me." The sunset painted the sky in warm orange light, and I understood the greatest truth of life. Money can build kingdoms, but love builds legacies. Power fades. Titles disappear. But kindness lives in the hearts you touch. I left the cemetery holding Zara's hand. Not as a billionaire. Not as a CEO. But as a man who finally learned that real wealth is measured in love, sacrifice, and the lives we help heal. And that was how my story truly became a story worth living. If this story touched your heart, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Heart Touch Story for more emotional, inspiring, and life-changing stories like this. Comment below. Love is the real wealth. If you believe kindness is stronger than success. Stay tuned for more heart-touching stories that will move your soul.